Here you can see I'm about to perform a repair on an iPhone 6. I literally had the customer waiting. They said they wouldn't mind waiting whilst I fix it. And as you can see, I had to remove, it is badly cracked, and I had to remove a lot of sellotape from the screen in order to pry off the LCD. Here I'm remembering to disconnect the battery and remove the battery connector shield. Once I disconnect the battery, that also allows me now to disconnect the LCD from the logic board. I strongly advise in doing that in the first instance before you disconnect the LCD, as in my beginning stages I did that quite a lot without disconnecting the battery and found myself in quite a few sticky circumstances. Now I'm testing the new LCD. I always like to have two LCDs of the same kind, just in case if one of them is faulty whilst I'm carrying out the repair, because I've also experienced that also when I've only had one with me and that particular supposedly new screen is also faulty. So here I am disconnecting the LCD shield from the original screen with the damage, and I'm now starting to work on the earpiece and the front camera flexes to remove them from the original screen as well, also being very careful with the proximity sensor as I take it apart and separate it from the LCD screen. There are also brackets, plastic brackets, which are in the top part of the screen there that holds the front camera in place, as well as a proximity sensor, and I'll put those aside as well. Try to obviously keep that also. And there I'm removing the shield and removed the fingerprint connector. So now I am ready to go ahead and reattach all of the parts that I took off the broken screen onto the new one, starting with the LCD shield and putting in the 6 screws. Just to mention, with all the screws that is taken removed from the original, I always put them in the same formation so I know exactly where they are and which ones go where, as I'm not sure if you've found, or maybe you're a beginner, all screws are not the same and they're not the same sizes either, so putting them in the incorrect holes could create more problems for you later on. So as I'm using here a magnetic mat, I'm able to put the screws on there in a formation and they will stick there. I am now readjusting and reapplying the fingerprint connector so that the home button will then attach itself, and then put it on the shield in order to keep the Touch ID working properly. Again, I've had experiences where I've not done that correctly, and you've found as when you're switching the phone back on, it says it cannot register and there's no Touch ID to be found, which means I then have to reopen the phone and readjust. Sometimes the Touch ID can be damaged beforehand, but it's if you're able to test it beforehand, then I strongly advise you do so. But where I had a conversation with the customer, he did tell me everything was working. It was just mainly the crack on the screen which needed addressing. So I'm just applying the shield on the front camera and the earpiece speaker, and now I'm connecting the LCD shield to the logic board and putting back on the shield as well. And then once I've done that, I will then reapply the battery which you can see there, and put the batteries connector shield also back together. And now I am doing finishing touches and putting in the 2 pentalobe screws to allow the screen to sit flush on the housing. And here we go, powered up, taking a quick sip of water, and in just over 20 minutes, even though this video was sped up, we have a working phone. I'm a very happy customer.